Hey everyone, it is Natalie from Being Intentionally Creative, and such an interesting thing. I'm using my camcorder for more than one thing these days, and I keep having to realign it to do these videos, and I'm not always sure I'm doing the best job on that. However, we shall carry on. What are we going to do today? Well, today we are going to be doing these ribbons. I showed them to you in the last video I did. They were part of what I got from a Temu haul that I had done. And I'm not sure why we call it a haul. I guess it's just because we're getting all kinds of different things. Anyway, I wanted to do these. Now, I know I had mentioned that they were something I was considering for Christmas trees. However, I got thinking these might be something cool for a wedding. Depending on what colors the bride and groom have picked for their wedding, something like this might be kind of interesting. I guess I'm thinking more so from the perspective of the head table. These could be hanging on or attached to the tablecloth if they have something like that. You could even incorporate these somehow into a bouquet. I'm granted not 100% sure how you might do that. My sister, who puts together flower bouquets, would have a much better idea on concept for that than me. However, a wedding is another option for these. You could use them at a party of some sort, depending on what your theme was. But I just wanted to, I'd come up with wedding was an idea, so I just wanted to put that out there because they don't have to just be for Christmas and on a tree. I think these are a bit big. As I mentioned in my video, one of the trees I have is 4.5 feet, and another one's about 7.5 feet. These would look okay on the 7.5 foot. I'm not sure how they would look on my 4.5 foot tree. Again, it's all up to you. What do you like? How do you want to do it? What we're going to do is we're going to do all 4 of these, and we're going to do them in different colors. I'm going to use mica powders. What we're going to do is we're going to color our mold first and then just pour clear resin in it. One of the things I wanted to point out, this was made with polyurethane. Okay. There are some deep, I don't want to say really deep, but around the edges here, the silicone, the resin has to go down. What we want to do is make sure we get the resin into these, sort of deep spots on the mold. As we know with polyurethane, it cures rather quickly. We don't have a lot of time to, sit and play with it. I think that 2-part epoxy would be best for these molds, because then that way what we can do is we can take something like this dotting tool and get in and down around the sides. I want to try and do this without my hands in the way. So we need to be able to get in and around some of these little spots with this, and potentially with a toothpick I'm just throwing things around, don't mind me. I'm trying to see if I have anything else, but we could also use something like this to get into those spots so that when we pull it out of the mold, then we have a more crisp bow than what I had. I took my X-Acto knife and I cut down some of the sharper edges. If you can see here on the side, we've got, a chunk out of it, but that's because I just poured this in. I wanted just to see how this was going to look, but we have things like that to think about. Now, the other thing I didn't do full on with this one was getting the gold. So I used, and I'll show you the colors I'm going to use, and one of them is the gold that I used on this one, on one of these. I just brushed, basically, I didn't go down around the sides all that much. I basically stayed surface level with these, as opposed to trying to get, nitty gritty in, because I thought it would add a little bit of dimension if we had some of the, in this case, the white from the polyurethane showing through. I thought it would just add some dimension. That may not be your thing. You may want to ensure that you've got it completely covered. For me, again, it was a test because I wanted to see how this would turn out, and I'm actually very pleased with it. The other thing I noticed too when I took it out of the mold, I had thought that maybe these would be heavy, but they're not. This is really light. Like, there's not a lot of weight to this whatsoever, which is kind of cool. Again, I don't know if the density of polyurethane urethane versus 2-part epoxy may be different, but they're really not that heavy, which is really cool. And you could decorate this up a little bit more if you wanted to with a chrome marker, just to give it a little bit more of an accent. One of the things I'm going to do while these are curing up, I plan on using my heat mat, is to determine how I want to, if we were going to fix this to a tree, how do I want to do that? Drilling a hole through a spot like this and coming through the bow at the front, this part of the bow, or whether or not we would do something like this so it hangs like this. You could do something through the top of these. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time trying to figure that out, because I'd like us to do that with these pieces. You could use it as a magnet. Definitely got space on the back for a magnet. I don't think you'd need a really, really big magnet, but I could be wrong on that. Anyways, this is what we're going to do. So what colors are we going to use, Natalie? Well, I've got all my colors are eye candy. We have this zerrin, dark ocean green, the red, and rainbow violet. You may think the rainbow violet's a little out there. However, it will kind of give you some sense based on if we were doing this for a wedding. And I also really like the color purple. We'll start out with getting these all colored up. I will have to make my resin after that. My nose is very itchy today. These aren't the greatest of molds, and we know that from Temu. I don't say we shouldn't expect it. However, some of the molds, as I've found in the past, aren't the best. I think if they give you what you're looking for, though, that makes it worthwhile. All right. I am just using a basic makeup brush. Again, I got these ones at Dollarama. All right, let's start with the gold. And I think I'm going to do the same thing. I don't think I'm going to try and get these colors right down into all the grooves. And I don't want to take a lot. So basically all I did when I did the other one was I was gentle with not getting too much on, as I have managed to. And as I said, I didn't really go around the sides too much. And I'm wondering as well, let me get that one out of the way so I don't get gold on it too much. If with doing it this way and not getting them down the sides, when we pour it, because I'm just using clear. My intention isn't really to put anything in as far as a glitter or any kind of coloring in this. If you used it on a Christmas tree, for sake of argument, if you would end up with having light being able to sort of shine through, because I haven't gone down the sides of it. So the light would penetrate through parts of it. And I guess another way to ensure if that's sort of the look you were going through would be not to get gold everywhere. And I'm going to end up banging these out on a piece of paper towel so I can get any loose stuff that hasn't blended into the mold out, so I don't have, spots of the mica. And I thought to myself, oh, you're not going to do Christmas in April, are you? Considering that had been what I was doing last year, just before Christmas. I basically jumped on that bandwagon, and very hard too, I might say. And I'm going to attempt not to do that this year. I just thought, when I thought of wedding, I thought, well, why not? Let's do something like that. And it's not crazy dark. So there's the gold. So you can make it really subtle. Nothing that has to be in your face. I'm just using a what am I using? Just a really basic wipe off of these. Let's see what color. We'll do the green next. And I know one of the things I had said with these, the reason I got 4 was so we could do a set. If you wanted to do 4 of one color, 4 of another color. You could even mix and match your colors in here. You could, you know, do part green, part gold, or part red, part green, stuff like that. For this, I'm just going to keep them all solid. Let's see how we come out. And I think what might be kind of interesting, and I'll work on cleaning this off just a little bit better to get the green off. I don't mind if there's a little bit of the gold showing up in the green. That's totally cool. Yep, see, I did way too much there. And I guess if you have it a little lighter or darker in spots, again, it depends on how finicky you want to get with this. I did use about 40 mil of the polyurethane to make the one. I'm going to make up 120 mils of resin for these 4. And then we'll work on making sure we can get them in and down around the edges. I'm going to do, the other thing I'm going to do with this, which I've done before, I'm not sure I've shown it to you, is where I take a piece of masking tape and then I also have somewhere, it's underneath or over further on my table, but I have something that I can run these through. But I do find the masking tape is helpful in taking the color, the micas out of my brushes as well. It's getting gold and green out of that. Okay. And as usual, I always cover up put my lids right back on. Don't want to knock anything over and end up with mica powder all over the place that I don't want it to be. I love this red. This is a gorgeous red. Get those out of the way. Look how vibrant that is. It's such a pretty color. Now you could have some fun and do white, like make your resin white. Again, if you wanted to have a little bit of color showing through. Like I say, I'm just going to do clear on these. You could put a color in it. I keep playing with putting different colors behind colors. I made a bookmark. And I did a bit of it purple And then I decided I would use yellow at the back of it. And again, I do that because I want to play and see what I can come up with. I know I've said it before, a lot of people do black and white. Those seem to be their two go-to colors for stuff like that. And I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to find out some different ways of doing it. Different colors. How are they going to look? Alright, and then our last color will be the purple. Well, rainbow violet. Let's call it what it is. I say I love when I can pronounce the names of these eye candy colors. This is pretty. Subtle. I like when I can show you things I'm doing and keep my hands right out of the picture. I'd heard some noise outside. My garbage people were just by. I really appreciate them being out in the country. I appreciate them coming and picking up my garbage. I know my taxes pay for that service. I really appreciate them though. There you go. Now noticing with this color versus the other ones is the difference in, I want to get a wet wipe out for a second. The difference sort of in the shine with this color versus the other ones. And I have seriously got this stuff all over me. Doesn't take much, does it? Get rid of that. And I'll clean up my brush in a minute. You'll notice the shine, like in the gold, there's a lot more shine than in this purple, but that'll make it nice as well. Now this mold, as I think to myself, it's got a bit of a matte mold. It does have a shine to it, a little bit. Excuse me, but it's definitely not as shiny as what some are, which will make them interesting as well. But there are 4. So the gold, the violet, our red, and our green. I think looking at the green, it would be a pretty color for a wedding. I think for Christmas I would like something a little more green, and I think this one's sort of got the shade of blue in it, which is why it doesn't look as green. I'm going to go mix up my resin for this, and then we'll come back and pour. And we'll use one of my tools here to make sure we get in and around those edges. Like I really want to make sure I get the resin where it needs to go. And then I will figure out how we're going to hang these or what we're going to do to them. Yeah, we'll be back. We are ready to carry on. Before we do that, I just want to point something out to you that, and I hadn't come across this before. I mix this resin up by hand, which is totally cool and fine, and I've got micro bubbles in it. I put it in my debubbler, and it actually started sucking in the cup here. So I stopped it, I took it out. It didn't have, it's 5 minutes. I'm not going to be overly concerned about it at this point. Anyway, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. I saw something, I'm going, what's going on over there? But anyways, it's all good. I'm thinking that these kind of cups shouldn't be going in. I think the cups that came with it are a thicker material than this. I know someone had mentioned about not putting silicone cups in because it would suck them in, but I really didn't think it would do it on this. Anyway, and I bought a whole bunch of these just because I wanted to be able to use them in the debubbler, but I guess I'm not going to be able to do that. I wanted to mention that to you. And like I said, I took it out once I noticed it was doing that. So just something to be aware of. And I guess I'm just going to have to use some of my other containers to, the thicker ones in my debubbler. So just letting you know that. Okay, got my mat out. We're going to do these, and we'll probably just sort of have to move them around. I think what I'm going to do initially is work on getting them down, like the resin down and around the sides. And I just have a thing in here. A thing in here. Isn't that good? Technical terms and everything. I don't know if I can get it out. It's maybe I did. All right. Put on my other magical glasses that I have. Try and keep my head out of the picture. And actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do this maybe a bit smarter way. I'm going to get one of these small little cups and pour my resin in here, and then I have, I think, more control. There's nothing in this resin. It is clear. I didn't even flinch at putting glitter in. I just did not put glitter in. So let's see what we can do, and you're all in view. Perfect. And yeah, I am going to end up moving this around so I can get it where I want to get it. I may not take you through the painstaking watching of this. But I want to know we're going to get this where it needs to be. And I think 2-part epoxy is the way to go with this, just because then you are getting it into all the nooks and crannies that you want to get it into. I always think I'm totally organized doing this stuff, and then you start trying to do stuff and it's like, oh, I need that, and I gotta move that out of the way, and you know, oops, I had a fuzzy on the bottom of that. Oh, I gotta get rid of one of my pair of gloves because I have a hole in the back of it, and now I have a hole in the thumb. And the other thing I want to be careful of is not to take off too much of the coloring, the mica powder. But yeah, so this is going to be one of those molds that requires a little bit more attention to it. So we get our resin all we want it to. Work on getting rid of some of those little bubbles that are going to get into the crevices, like we know they do. And again, I don't put, I don't do the alcohol, like spray the alcohol when I've got the mica powder just laying in there, because I don't want to mess it up with the alcohol. I don't know whether it would or not. I've never attempted that. So yeah, that's all I'm going to do. I am not going to take you through this. This is get a little too painful to watch, and I'm going to have to be careful of my time too, because I have noticed that my resin is warming up a little bit. So, and actually what I need to do I'm really hopeful that we don't end up with too many bubbles. Hopefully we don't end up with any, but oops. And we'll have to be careful too, because these aren't completely level. I don't want to overflow these. I'd rather they have, like, I want obviously enough resin in them, but I just don't want to have any of this flowing over. Again, that is one of the misfortunes with the Temu ones, that they're not always the best from that perspective. So yeah, this is all I'm going to be doing, is getting them as close to the top as I can without having any issues going over. And doing my bestest to make sure I get in everywhere I want. Anyway, I'm going to carry on with these, and I will bring you back maybe once they have all been poured, so you can see. We'll get the heat mat going, and I have a piece of whatchamacallit on my mat. Anyway, once I'm done fiddling around with this, I'll bring you back. Well, once again, I made way too much resin. Way too much resin. And then my resin started to set up a little bit, which, as we all know, is not fun to try and work with resin that's starting to get ooey and sticky and whatnot. Okay, I've got some extra things on my table here, and I will show you everything once everything has set up. I did my bestest with my bows, trying to think of what they are. And yeah, I got some other things. Now, one of the things we're going to test, and I haven't done this before, so you know this cute little pot that I absolutely love. I had done some polyurethane in the bottom of it. We're going to put this on. I'm going to watch this piece especially because the bottom is cured, and I want to see what's going to happen with the resin that I've just poured in here, which, as you can see, is orange. I colored it. Anyway, yeah, we're going to see what happens with that piece specifically. I've got my cover over here, which I'm going to try and balance out so that it can at least cover these things so we don't get all kinds of dust into them. And then once these are all cured up and we can take them out, then we'll have a look at them. Right. So I totally miscalculated how much I needed for these ribbons. And I think I'm going to have to do another one to see how much I actually probably did need versus what. And I'll keep watching for these bubbles as well, because some of them are still coming up on the bows and everything else. So that's pretty much a free-for-all. I do have some resin over here. I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing, but this little circle here, and there's like bubbles galore in that, because as I say, it was starting to set up. I've got my cup draining over there, and like, good luck on that one. I tried not to waste too much of it, and yeah, we all know how this works, right? Like, we've all done this. Make me feel better. Tell me we've all done this, where we've made too much resin that starts getting sticky, and right, we go from there. So let's get this plugged in and get it heating, which I don't think it's going to take long, just because, as I say, the resin is starting to set up. And then we will go from there. I know my arm's getting away. Everything's getting in the way, isn't it? Might as well full blast that, eh? It's not going to matter at this point. And right, I'll pay attention to this. I'll work on getting something to cover these up. I'm more interested in the bows being covered up and whatnot. But yes, this little pot here I'm going to keep an eye on for sure. And if I have to, I will take it off. I don't know how it's going to fare, but anyway. So when these are done and ready to be taken out of their mold, we will do that. And then I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking of doing with some of it. Okay, we're back. I have just turned off my heat pad. We have been going for 4 hours with the heat pad being on. I did pay attention to this piece because I was most interested in what was going to happen with this piece. So if we like rub our hand on the top of that, it is cured. And I guess I was most interested because we had the bottom part that had been done with the polyurethane, and I wasn't sure what was really going to happen with that. So we're going to probably do this as one of our last pieces. We have these pieces over here. I'm going to do a better video with these pieces in the near future because I have an idea for these guys. But again, I made way too much resin and needed to do something with it. I wasn't 100% sure what this piece was going to do. I can see lots of air bubbles on the top of this, and I know this piece specifically that is clear has air bubbles within it. And I'm not sure if you can see those or not, but there are definitely air bubbles in that. We have this piece here, which I will take out in a moment so you can see what it is. And the main attraction, obviously, is the bows. Okay, so what do we want to do first? Let's play. Let's play a little bit. So we'll take one of these out right now and see how we managed. They're going to be a little soft. They have just come off the heater, if you will. So they are going to be a little soft, so I want to be careful with them. And I'm definitely, I mean, they're going to sit. They'll have some time to sit, cool down. And that might be something I should be letting them do because they are soft. But I guess this gives you a good indication. So if I'm taking these out now and they're soft, then that helps you to recognize that we should let them cool down before we take them out. And they're definitely going to need some more time to sit and cure up. All right. So here is the green one, which actually looks, interestingly enough, it looks very pretty having come out of the mold. Right? So I definitely want to find someplace flat. I have a desk over to the side. I'm going to put this piece down as I move everything else out of the way because I want to let them sit. So we'll be coming back to these. I'm not done with this video for sure. We will come back once pieces have had a chance to truly cool down. Let's do this. Maybe what we'll do is we'll do these in two sections. We'll let our heat mat cool down as well as some of these other pieces. But we'll take some out now just so we can see how they look. Okay, so this is just a geode piece. Now whether I've done this right or not, maybe not, I went all the way up to the top, but I'm almost wondering if that was a mistake. But it had so I could put resin in there, so I'm not 100% sure whether I should have just filled in this piece in the center here versus coming up to the top of here. But I did anyway. So there's that. And let's see how let's take this out. I'm going to let the other 3 of my bows, such a simple word, it's 3 letters. Anyway, we will let those sit and cool down. See how our... Now, you're probably not going to like the color combination on this whatsoever, but that's okay. I needed something to put my orange into. And I have an air bubble right there. Alrighty. So I did use, when I did this piece, I put some of my, it wasn't alcohol ink I used on this. It was just a regular ink, a resin dye ink that I put, and it wasn't an ink, it was just a resin dye. But that looks pretty cool on the inside. I really like how that looks. And the outside actually looks pretty cool too. This is something I could see doing again. And then, well, you know, the orange. The orange doesn't really fit with it. It doesn't fit, but the inside of that, and I'm hoping you can see that, looks really cool. All right, we'll put that off to the side as well. And then let's see, we'll take one of these out. Again, the orange was starting to go really fast and furious as far as, yeah, I was making a mess of that. So this is what one of them looks like. Let's get this onto something else for you so you can see. I have an interesting idea for these. You'll have to stay tuned for that. All right, we'll leave the rest of those in there because, well, they're not going to make any difference. That's what they're going to look like. And let's do these and see how. So the clear one, now I'm not, yeah, well, maybe it is. I think these guys need a little bit more time to cure up. Now I'm not getting any dampness off that. I'm just feeling it, and I'm not getting any dampness off it. I did look underneath to see if this was actually touching the mat, and it was a little bit. But I think these guys, I'm going to leave these 2 in here until the morning. But here is this piece, and I had air bubbles in this for sure. All right, so we'll let that sit and cure up a little bit more. And we'll leave these 2. I'm just going to push that down. It's on a table to the left of me, or to the right of me. And we're just going to leave those 2 in there until tomorrow. We will be coming back because we're going to let these cool down completely. These, as I said, there's nothing exciting to see about those. And then we will take these other 3 out. Once they've, I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to leave them until the morning. And then I'll come down and we'll take these out. So they're actually going to have, they're 4 hours curing with the heat mat, and then the rest of the time just general curing, and then the same for these 2 pieces, and those I'm going to leave those as well. And we will come back tomorrow morning. See you then. Time to get back at it. We are at the next morning for me. We're going to take some more of this stuff out. I do want to show you a couple of things that are outside of this video, based on my earring mess up that I did. And thank you for those people who commented. I hope you enjoyed as far as getting a laugh out of what I did incorrectly. And if you haven't done it, but it was a good show and tell for you to know what not to do, then brilliant on my part for doing that and showing that to you. I still can't believe, and I've looked at some of my other molds and I'm going, they've reversed them, and I'm not sure why they just don't have them going in the right direction so that when you're working on them, you get them the way they need to be. I know in the long way around that you understood what I said to you. So I'll get to the earrings in a second. let's go through the rest of this. So this was the one we took out earlier. All right. And it's got a bit of a, I guess because, yeah, this makes total sense. Because it is clear resin I use, like it's got some sort of translucency to it, which is kind of cool. We could have covered color. Okay, let me try this again. We could have done the backing in like a white or a black or some other color. But again, I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to see how these would work out. So this mold, there's not much to share as far as this mold goes. We know what these pieces look like, and let me put them on something that shows them better. So we know what these are going to look like. I do have an idea for these. I'm going to have to do a little bit more work on them, and we'll do that. Well, we won't be doing that. I'm not going to show you what I'm going to do to these as far as taking you through it. However, I will show them to you once I'm ready to use them in another project, okay? So we really don't need to, take all 9 of those out and show, because they're all pretty much the same, right? Just agree with me on that one. Let's get the heart and this piece out here. We had seen the clear piece I took out yesterday. Okay. This is a cool mold. I do like it. I haven't sort of given a lot of thought to what I would do with the pieces that I take out of it. I think they're meant to be, I'm getting sidetracked. I had a piece of resin stuck to my hand. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how I would want to do these so that we could get and see more of the detail. Now what I could do is take a chrome marker over it to highlight some of the bumps on it. And there definitely are bubbles in this because the resin was starting to set up when I was pouring this yesterday. So that's absolutely no surprise to me. And this other piece will be the same way. Again, we were pouring it when it was starting to set up. And this is what how my glass turned out. It was just, yeah, it got away from me. It did. So we'll just put those off to the side and see if I can't figure out how I would like to use them. I think I over poured the red one a little bit. Was it the green one? I had to take some of the resin out of one of them because it was getting extremely close to the top and potential of it running over. Now, we did have some spots where our mica powder didn't come out. And I just want to see if it's the actual, yeah, it's the actual mica powder. I didn't know whether it might have been some resin that just broke off. No, that's mica powder. So I'm going to have fun cleaning that one out. Some spots will be really easy. If someone's got a really good trick on how to clean these out, especially when you get it in spots like that, please let me know. I'll start off using one of my micro brushes and probably some water to see if I can't clean that up. I know the alcohol does a good job, just not really fussy about using the alcohol on my molds, which I've mentioned before. Anyway, so I want to just have a look at the top of these. So I guess that's correct. I wanted to know if this spot here, like this top piece here, should be part of it, and it is. Whereas I have a little bit on the green on this side. I don't have it on this side. And I definitely have air bubbles in the red one. Yeah. So this again is going to be one of those molds you're going to want to spend some time on, and perhaps if I had done them one at a time, that would have been better for me, because then I could have given them a little bit more attention. As it was, I had to start and was rushing a little bit because of the fact that it was going to start to harden up. I'm curious about this purple one. Now the purple one definitely has a translucent look to it. And I think, yeah, I got some red mica on the side of this one. And again, I do have air bubbles. But that is pretty. So imagine that up against, well, let's just do it against this green. So, I'm only doing that because of the transparency. I'm trying to get this in the right spot just because of the transparency in it. But they are, it's a pretty mold. I do like it. I'm just going to have to get more efficient at actually doing these pieces. And then this one won't be much different than the one I did originally with the polyurethane. And again, yeah, I think I'm going to have to do these individually to maybe get a little bit better at not getting so many air bubbles. I mean, the gold one, you can definitely see them in, and it may be because of the color of it. But it is definitely easier to see the micro or the bubbles on this. I won't call them micro bubbles. Yeah. So if we look here at the side, yeah, not a very good job on this one. So again, I'm either going to have to have it that I don't concern myself so much with this slip around the side, although I know I'm going to get resin down and around those edges. Or I'm going to have to make much smaller batches up and spend more time working on getting this everywhere it needs to be. I mean, some of them weren't too bad, but they have... Now, which did I think I started with the green one? I'm having a look at it because it may be the best one, being the first one that I worked on. Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. I guess if you're doing 4 different colors, then you could do them all independently and take your time to get it set in the way you want it to. If you're wanting to all 4 the same color, then that's going to potentially get a little more challenging because your resin is going to potentially start to heat up and then not be as fluid as you want it to be. Now, the other option, which you absolutely could do, is use deep pour resin to work on getting the resin where it needs to go. Would I do that? It might be interesting to do an experiment on that, just because then we can see if it makes difference. And we know that if we use deep pour and you have a heating mat, we could set it that way. So we're not having to wait the 48 hours. Is that right? 48 hours? 72. 48. As I quickly did the math in my head on that one. Anyway, we wouldn't have to wait the 3 days. And that might be a good experiment to do. And to see how they would come out using a deep pour, because I would have more time. That's an option. That's definitely an option with those. So that might be a good experiment to do. I do want to make more because I really do like the mold. I think it's really pretty. I think we got nice bows out of this. And I like the colors. Again, would like a green, like more like a pine green. I'm not sure about an emerald green. I think a darker type of green. The purple's pretty, as is the gold. Anyway, okay, enough about those. Maybe we'll do another video where we use the deep pour and see how much of a difference I can make that way. Which I actually like the idea of doing that. So link in the comments below if you think that would be a cool idea to do, to see if we can't avoid some of the air bubbles, especially like the red one is not, the red one has some issues. And I'm also thinking too, this divot here, yeah, see, it should be flat. I shouldn't have it looking like this. Like it shouldn't be cracked down like that, I don't think. I'm trying to, anyway, I think the deep pour might be an idea. Getting back to my earrings now. All right. Yes, I messed those up. That's why I did the second video right after the first one you saw. So here we have these earrings, and the more I look at them, the more I like them. It's really unfortunate that I didn't even see that I was going to have an issue with them. And I haven't done anything on the other side of them. And I'm struggling a little bit to see what I want to do on the other side of them. And I don't know whether just to say, you know what, forget it, and just leave these the way they are. Even though we know that when we put them in the ear, it's not going to be right. We know that now, right? I had a thought of maybe doing some decoupage on this side. Another part of me had given some consideration to taking these off, and I could probably get them off relatively easily, even if I just clip this part of the stem off and then see about drilling a hole through them. But then I think I thought to myself, that's not going to work either. Like I totally missed the boat on this. Now, I did another pair using polyurethane and did them this purple color. When I took them out of the mold, I actually did get them the right way. I had to take them out, right? I knew at that point, right? I had learned my lesson that we were going to have to take it out so that I could get, if I made earrings out of them, which they're meant to be, then when we put the studs on this end of them, then I would have the same on both sides when they were hanging. And then I just did that on the other side of them. UV resin just with some glitter in it, and it was the same with this side. I just used glitter in them. Yeah, this is so unfortunate. But hey, these things happen in the world of art. And as I say, if it prevents you from making the same mistake I did, then it is well worth it to me. That's it. That's all for this video. Let me know what you think of the ribbons. Let me know if you would like to see me do another video with them using the deep pour resin, because I still have some of that left. I'm constantly looking at the jugs going, I don't know what to do with this. I bought more than I needed. However, I could make another bowl with them. But that's it, yeah. So let me know about the deep pour idea. Hopefully I come up with some idea for these other earrings, because they are very pretty. And I guess what I could do if I wanted to is maybe see about making them into a necklace somehow. Which, you know, we have possibility of doing that. But I'm going to have to play with them some more and try and figure that out. Again, it's unfortunate because I put a lot of work into those, as you saw. It just didn't go the right way. So thank you for commenting and liking my videos as usual. I appreciate that. If you have any suggestions for me, please put those in the comment below. And I will see you in my next video. Continue to be creative. I know you can be. Have a great day. Take care, and bye for now.